Start the stream. And this door shouldn't be locked, but just in case. All right. So, just as a little shout out to the other 3 people in this class. I know one of you've emailed me. One of you are doing this online because this is technically a hybrid course. The other 2, Burns and Graham, this is a hybrid course, so if you're listening to this online, you can do this online. If you want to come in person, that's fine too. Room 505 in the Continuum. That said, if you do this online, since I obviously can't count you present online, I'll be doing a discussion day thing each week on Wednesdays. It's basically just a poke your head in and show me that you're alive and that you've been paying attention to the videos. Like that's all I need you to do. I think I can set it so you two. No, I'm not going to bother with that. You two will still see it. You don't have to do it because you're in here. So it'll just be a thing like what stood out this week or what new thing did you learn. You two don't worry about it. But those of you that are doing the online portion, please just respond to it. Just what's sticking out for you. Also for the online portion, we're gonna treat this like an online class. So you guys will get the tests online. You can email me your papers. That's fine. You two, I'll physically hand you your tests. I'd rather you physically hand in your papers, but you can email them. That doesn't matter. It's whatever's easiest for you. I don't have massive online classes this semester, so it's not as big of a deal. So yeah. But again, I've had a lot of emails about like questioning for the online classes. So if you're online, all the stuff's online. Don't worry about it. If you're in here in person, physically looking at me, then you'll be getting your stuff in person. Otherwise, don't worry about it. Okay. So, this was the first PowerPoint I ever put together for a class. So, this first section is kind of a repeat of the intro day, so we're going to skip through a lot of it. But this was, I was given this book like 2 weeks before class started, and the lady's like, "All right, good luck." And so I spent the next 2 weeks at work all night long making PowerPoints. So yeah. So some of these PowerPoints are a little weird. I haven't fixed too much in them because they work well enough. Sometimes my sleep idle brain works better than when I'm coherent, so I don't know. Anyway, this is 103 Western Civ to 1689, more or less. And then we've already talked about who y'all know you two know who I am at least. And then my email, which, especially for my online portion, that's how I want you guys to contact me. I really need to get this said to my my other online classes because they keep messaging me through Blackboard, which is better than it used to be because I'm at least getting notifications at all. But the notifications through Blackboard typically don't get to me until I get a Blackboard digest sent to my email. But then I can't access Blackboard until I get home or get through Blackboard here on the school computer, if you email me, I can pull it up on my phone right away. So if you need to get in touch with me, shoot me an email. I can get to it right away. If you send me a message through Blackboard, I'll get to it when I can. Because every time I get on Blackboard, it makes me re-sign in, and then I got to pull up my phone and all that two-factor crap. So, yeah. If you do message me on Blackboard, fine. You're just going to get a later response. All right. We did all this already. Show up to class if you're physically here in class. If you're not physically here in class, do the discussion day stuff so I can know you're here. We talked about grading policy, test structure, writing. Oh, well, actually, the new people, we didn't. So I guess I can briefly go over this. Grading policy, all tests are weighed the same. So are the two papers, which means that you can drop one total out of all of them. So if you don't do good on a test, make sure you do both the papers. We can drop that test. If you do good on all the tests and you don't feel like doing one of the papers, cool. You can just not do one of the papers. I would suggest you do the first paper so that you can make sure that you've got that one already done in case you mess up on a later test. Or so that you can skip that second paper when you've got everything else due at the end of the semester. That's all of that. Test structure, multiple choice, and short answer. Again, it's going to be on Blackboard, so it'll all be there. And again, short answer is not me trying to get you to write an essay. For the love of God, don't. Just write the answer. Writing assignments, 2 to 3 pages double spaced. I've already put the topics up on Blackboard, but you are more than welcome to do something besides the default topic. I don't have, again, an entire class full like I used to, where I'd be getting 30 Athens versus Sparta papers. So you're more than welcome to do the default topic. But if there's something more interesting to you between the Stone Age, essentially, and like the Middle Ages, you're welcome to write about it. It can be anything. It can be, a civilization, a culture, a person, a place, an event, whatever. Just bring that up to me so I can make sure you're not going too broad. If you want to be like, I want to talk about the pyramids, that's way too freaking broad. Talk about if you want to talk about the pyramids, sure. You need to be like like a lot more specific on like what part of the very long history of the pyramids you want to talk about. We talked about this. Who, what, when, where, and why. So just, what happened, where it happened, when it happened, why it happened, and the why is why we're here. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about Hannibal because he's like my favorite ancient history character. I'm still more of like a more modern European history guy myself. I get really excited about 104, so those of you that are in here, if you can stick around to 104 next semester, I'd really appreciate it. Because if they cancel that class with me, I'm going to be sad. I really enjoy teaching 104. I've become very unprofessional in that class. So history is a definition. I mean, we talked about, what is history here, sort of, like how I teach it. But, like, definitionally, what is history? So, I'm going to show you 3 structures. I don't know if I did this for you guys in American history or not. It's been a year, so you might have already forgotten. I'm going to show you 3 structures. Tell me which of this is a whole 2 of you. You get to discuss this amongst yourselves. Show you 3 structures. Tell me which of these is not historical and why. So we have Stonehenge, located in, I don't know, somewhere in England. It's like Dairy Field or something. I don't know. England has some of the dumbest names. We have the Colosseum in Rome, Italy. And we have the Continuum, in which you are located. Here in Lake City. So, Which of these is not a historical structure? Because one of them is not. Okay, why? Okay, at what point does something become history? No, your answer. Go for it. This is like the question: at what point does grave robbing become archaeology?
Okay, so I'm gonna say there's no one else alive that saw it being built.
Okay, that's
So like once that happens, it's become somewhat of a historical.
once it goes into like, okay, you're. I mean, that's not the answer I'm looking for, but you're on the right track.
That was a very nice way of saying that I am wrong.
I mean, you're wrong, but you're on the right track because every class I've done this to chose the continuum, which is not wrong, not right. Yes, but but define that for me. Why? What do you mean by no history around it?
Well, there's not really anything historically significant about it other than I don't even know who built Stonehenge.
Correct.
There's no history about who built Stonehenge.
You keep saying no history. What do you mean?
There's no people history.
Yes. You kept dancing around it. Yeah. I mean, you kept using the word history, but I'm trying to pull the definition out of you guys. Written record. There's no written record about who built Stonehenge. We have ideas, there were people. I would assume it was someone in England. But the Roman Colosseum, we know, we've got names. We've got record. They kept records on everything. We know who took a dump in the Colosseum. The continuum, we've got blueprints. We got friggin' Darla Moore. We could go and talk to the contractors if we wanted to, which you were getting close to with the once we get to the point that we can't talk to them anymore, then we have to rely on. Yeah, but what you were saying was, if you can't talk to them anymore, then you have to rely on written record. That's what I was pushing towards. But there is written record for the continuum, because there's written record for everything nowadays. There's written record for stuff that hasn't even happened yet because it's planning for stuff. If it's written down, it's history. So there's history for the continuum, technically. I mean, yes, I know, in the modern vernacular, Stonehenge is a historical structure because it's old, but in the historian's vernacular, it's prehistory because it's pre-written record, at least in that area. I think there might have been written record in Mesopotamia or Egypt at the time, but nobody wrote down what was going on when this was being built. So that's what history means, written record, which means that when we start, we're going to be talking about prehistory.
How do you know nobody wrote about it and you just had it found out?
Well, we've not yet to find any written record anywhere in England at all from that time period. So, if there is, we found nothing. And typically stuff like that, they would have carved it into the rock.
I really want to know how they made it.
It's always raining.
It is always raining. It is the thing about England, though. It actually rains here more than England in terms of amount of rainfall. It's always raining in England, but in the way the English put it, it's always pissing in England, where it's just sort of misting constantly, all the time, never sunny. But here it's either blazing sun or you're drowning. There it's just sort of always like that, like what the picture is, where it's just storm clouds, and sometimes it just kind of mists, and then it goes away, and then it comes back, and yeah. So not a lot of flash flooding there. The grass is nice though, super soft. And I know in Ireland, so England probably do. Very, like it feels like carpet. It's crazy how soft their grass is compared to our like hay grass we've got.
Depends on which grass you're talking about, actual Native American grass or freshly put in lawn.
Probably, yeah.
Who knows what
I imagine our shitty lawn grass is awful.
it's called,
Bermuda grass, yeah. No, that stuff's, yeah. Anyway, yeah, so this is just, yeah, history as a division, written record. Which means, I almost forgot this, there are civilizations today, right now, as I'm speaking to you guys, that are prehistoric. There are places in the world, in the Amazon, in like the islands in the Pacific. There's that island off the coast of India that don't have written language. Therefore, they are technically prehistoric. There are tribes that have not been contacted, which, for the record, we should leave them alone. Because the few times they have been contacted, they don't want us there. Yeah. Yeah, the last handful of guys. But yeah, if a civilization does not have written record, technically, by definition, they're prehistoric. Because having a written record is extremely important for like the development of civilization, which we'll get more into in a minute. But that's just for my definitions. We talked about historical lens a bit more. We talked about historical lens last time, but here it is, like in the actual notes, which is to say the view of historical lens based on the present day. View of historical events. Did I say historical lens again? Historical events. So, for example, the Roman Republic versus the Roman Empire in revolutionary America, that was super common. Again, one of the first classes I took in grad school was I keep saying it again like I've told you guys this before. It's not like you've been in my class for the last 10 years. One of the first classes I took in grad school was it was called Classical America, which was just Revolutionary Era America, but focusing on how much it was based off of like ancient Athens and Rome, because the founding fathers were massive nerds, and they really, really liked the ideas of ancient Athens and Rome. Like when they sent letters to each other, they used pen names of like Plato and Aristotle and what was the one? Was it Cato? No, it was some orator. I think Jefferson was the one that used it. And everybody was kind of catty about it with him. They were all really like, what's the word? I don't know how to say this without being really offensive. They were all like really gossipy bitches about it. They were very catty, but that was just like the era. Like all the prim and proper nobles were all very like gossipy, like the modern day stereotype of like gossipy women. That's how the nobles were back in like the 1700s. Pretty much, yeah. They were super into it. So during Revolutionary America, they looked back at like Rome and Athens and like took ideas and were like comparing, well, the Roman Republic had this, this, and this, and the Roman Empire, which was bad, and that's what we're trying to get away from because, you know, England bad, had these things, so we're going to avoid that. And I always use the thing with like Athens and Sparta in the context of the Cold War, where like Athens is a democracy and Sparta is Sparta wasn't communist, but again, Cold War era thing. Anything that's not raw America is communist, so whatever. And then like civil rights and historical settings compared to today, where we'll look at like each of these eras and then see how like people were treated besides just like the top people. It's pretty neat. And again, not like it doesn't change history, obviously, because history has already happened. But it changes how we view history, what parts of history we focus on. I mean, because like I said, today, a lot of where we try to focus is the stuff that you usually never focused on in the past, which is to say, everybody but like the top 1%. It's like, oh, he's, you know, Napoleon and Thomas Jefferson and Benjamin Franklin. It's like, okay, great. Those are all rich old white men. What about everybody else? So, you know. So, civilization. The book states that civilization comes in 4 pairs of, what's this, how's it put it here? Or maybe you do it. Oh, no, wait. Four pairs of things. So we've got settled life and a critical mass of people, which is to say you need more than just like a few people huddled together to form a civilization. But it also means, again, as you see, they're settled down. So nomadic groups rarely are able to form a strong, lasting civilization, which sucks because like, there's a lot of really cool nomadic groups out there, but rarely are they able to form stable civilizations. Sustainable agriculture and trade. This is why nomadic groups typically aren't able to form long-lasting civilizations, because it's hard to grow food when you're constantly moving around. Land doesn't move very often, and when it does, it's usually bad. So, yeah, you need to settle down and have like agriculture in order to have a large population, in order to have a large civilization. And also trade, trading between typically, not just within your, let's say, city or town or village or whatever, but to others as well. Government and law to keep the peace, because when you have a lot of people in a small space, humans suck and things are going to go bad at some point. So this is to keep some level of order. Again, beyond just like we're all in this together trying to survive, some level of higher like laws and government. And then finally, writing and abstract thought. So writing, as I said, makes the history happen. And abstract thought means something beyond, again, surviving from day to day. Being able to think about, as I was actually just saying in my my American history class, we were talking about the Native Americans. Like, if you're just focusing on surviving, that's where all your energy goes. But if you are growing food, so you have enough food to survive, so you're not worried about surviving, and the sun's gone down, so you're done farming for the day, but you still have energy to be awake because, again, you're not starving, and you're just like looking at the stars all night. And you notice after a couple of nights that, well, these stars haven't really moved, but these stars have. There must be something different about them. And then you start like making math because like that's how astronomy happens, is you like start plotting the way the stars move in the sky, and like this one doesn't move, but these do, and then that one over there is constantly moving, and these over there are moving because those are actually planets, and you sort of figure out that these things work differently. Yeah, that's beyond us being essentially a group of pack animals barely surviving. We're now thinking and becoming a civilization, becoming more than survivors. All right, so as I said, as I was alluding to with the structures thing, prehistory literally means before writing, because history means written record, so prehistory is before written record. Cool. So the way we know about stuff that happened before a written record is stuff of paleontologists, archaeologists, and anthropologists, which is to say pottery, painting, tools, bones, weapons, the sort of thing that you can just find in the ground. Again, at what point does archaeology become grave robbing? Excuse me. But yeah, this is, I guess, maybe it's, as a historian, maybe I should say that, like, archaeology becomes grave robbing when the graves have writing. Because you can, they have history now, so stop, like, kicking in people's graves. I don't know, some Lara Croft, Indiana Jones joke is in there.
What's the difference about paleontologist and archaeologist? Isn't an anthropologist just someone who studies specifically bones?
Anthropology is people, specifically. Anthro means people. In fact, for example, I was just reading a thing, or saw a video recently, about an event called the Anthropause. During COVID, when most people were inside, because again, America, but like most of the world kind of took a step back, and you may remember like animals started showing up in cities and stuff. It was this interesting event of like human activity slowed way down, and we were able to see like how wildlife reacted to that. So that was called the Anthropause. The era we're living in is called the Anthropocene, which is just means it's defined by human impact on the planet. Ew. That sounds like a really fun read. Kind of dry. Yeah. Well, you won't be reading that, no. But the anthropologists are people that study humans. Like, you have forensic anthropologists, like people that like study crime scenes, like human anatomy and whatnot, all the way to like prehistoric anthropology of, humans from long ago. Even like pre-human anthropology of like humans pre-Homo sapien, and like how humans changed over time. So yeah, anthropology is just like human study. Typically the bones, but like specifically people. Archaeology is the stuff they built, typically. Ruins, temples, homes. A lot of times that, especially with this really old stuff, a lot of that crap wasn't built in stone. A lot of the stuff we think about, it's like, oh, the stone temple. It's like, yeah, well, that was the very rare stuff. As far as like villages and stuff, you get like grooves in the ground, way underground, that you can only find with like ground penetrating radar. That's technically still archaeology. So you'll sometimes get that. Paleontology is, I'm pushing a bit further back with that because that's like fossils. That's typically beyond human levels of life. But, you know, if you really want to go back to, like, how long ago? It was 200,000 years ago, I think, was like some of our earliest ancestors. I think we got a few fossils from that era. So, yeah. Paleontology is typically associated with dinosaurs. But that's just anything that's, like, really far back. Yeah. And again, I'm not expecting you guys, especially this class, to get your hands on this book because it's not even in print anymore. And I sure as heck don't expect you guys to buy an out-of-copy book that's going to be extremely expensive. But if you can find it on like an archive site for free as a PDF, and you're interested in checking some of this stuff out, feel free to. But on page 7, there's this like new prehistoric past like sidebar that talks about the ages. Like we talk about the Stone Age and the or like the Paleolithic Age, so the Stone Age, Mesolithic Age, Neolithic Age, copper, bronze, iron, etc. But they're not really uniform ages, because by definition they are based on what types of weapons and tools the people were using. But like the people in, say, India could be using, and I'm just throwing this out there. I don't remember what region was the first to use it, but well, no, I guess I can use one that I know about. So if, say, people in, Greece were still using stone weapons, but the people in Egypt were using bronze weapons, they're technically, by the definition of ages, in different ages. But they're in the same time period. So that's why we use like radiometric dating and stuff to better like date them year-wise, as opposed to like, oh, well, they were using stone weapons, so they must have been in the Stone Age. Like, well, this might have been in the same time period as this other civilization. They just didn't have access to like bronze yet. Because as we're going to see, hopefully before the end of class, I'm getting kind of bogged down, but this is just how I work. Like the Hittites had iron like 1,000 years before anybody else, which was a major reason why they were such a feared group of people, because iron kicked the crap out of everything else. But that doesn't mean they were suddenly 1,000 years in the future. They were just 1,000 years ahead of everybody else in terms of weapons and tools, until everybody else caught on how to mine and smelt these weapons. Okay. Again, still prehistory. The Ice Age and paintings, 35,000 to 15,000 years ago. Bone flutes, fertility figures. Again, just like tools and art and stuff. No kind of written anything. But obviously these were made by people who were thinking beyond just survival. You don't make a flute out of a bone that's a really intricate thing to make when you're worried about if you're going to be able to eat the next day. Like that's something you do when you have time and energy and pretty decent morale, to be honest. The fertility figures I'll get into in just a minute. Which, I mean, same thing though. It's like there's this belief and culture growing of cave paintings in Chauveau and Lascaux, France. I don't know why I put Frank there, but you know that'll actually come up later in the semester. Animals, people, and symbols, which I'll get into a little bit more in a minute. And here's the fun thing. So typically, I mean, as I mentioned with civilization, it talked about agriculture, but agriculture didn't. It wasn't like, hey, we should plant these things, but if we plant these things, we have to stay with them. So I guess we should just build around them and stay here. It started with domesticating animals. Because again, humans were nomadic and they would follow herds of whatever the hell was around at the time. It started with like ice age critters, and then once they died out, there were smaller game. But once they realized that like some of these things could be semi-tamed, the like ancestors of modern day cattle and stuff, they're not real smart, and if you feed them, they're cool with being like pinned in. And as long as you like bring one away before you kill it, the other ones are cool. So you have a steady source of food. You don't have to chase them around, so you're not like burning your energy off before you get to them. But what that means is you have to feed these animals. So you have to grow food for the animals. Now again, cattle, they'll eat damn near anything. But if you're growing grass for the cattle, or in this case probably like, what is it, clover, cattle puff. Some people probably realize, hey, why don't we just like plant some of the stuff that we find out in the wilderness? Just like clear a bunch of land and plant it in the ground, because these seeds clearly are where the stuff's coming from, because they've realized it doesn't take much to realize, oh hey, when you're eating and you hit that hard thing and you throw it out, where you threw it, sometimes the thing will grow up. My mom said they accidentally grew a apple tree behind their house because they would eat apples and like throw the core behind them when they're sitting in a tree. Not sitting in a tree, sitting in the swing, and an apple tree grew up behind the swing. So that doesn't take much to learn. So that's how civilization happened. They started with animals, and since you need to keep the animals in one place and keep them safe from predators, you create a settlement, and you're living in one spot. So growing food, growing plant food as well, just kind of comes naturally. Also, let me think. Settlements led to agriculture, and agriculture for food, which was security for the group, because again, food security means you're not getting trampled by, musk oxen or whatever. If you get sick or you get hurt, you don't have to get left behind, because again, you're not chasing animals. You're stuck in one place, more or less. And if you're in one place, you can build defenses. You can clear areas out so you can see stuff coming, either other tribes or like wolves and bears. And let me tell you, we were lower on the food chain back then. Bears, in what is modern day Germany, that's where we get the word bear from. They called it Bruin, which is German for the brown one, because they believed that the bears were basically this kind of malevolent spirit, and if you said its true name, it would come and eat you. So it was this thing whose name you did not say is how horrifying the bears were back then. The bears back then were also larger than today. Like there was literally like bigger bears that would just come and eat people. Yeah, so like security of the group wasn't just because people are awful and you gotta protect yourself from other people, but you would literally get eaten by animals. And this also again allowed. And wheat was the turning point. Wheat is very easy to grow. It grows fast. It tends to produce a lot. And once they realized how, and now the thing is, you can't just eat wheat. But once they realized how to like grind it down into flour and then turn that flour into early bread, it caused the human population to explode because it's very high in calories and very low in like resources to make. And calories are important in giving your body the energy to survive. Now today, it's all about low-calorie diets because we are saturated in all sorts of unhealthy crap, but also we're not like running for our lives most of the day. So like our bodies don't know what to do with everything. Back then, if you handed one of these like nomadic people a candy bar, they would be able to probably go for 3 days straight and kill anything they came into contact with. Yeah. So real quick, the where is it? Right, domestication of animals. I always like to bring this up before we move along because, like I said, I've got a minor in biology. I like animals. So, I'm just going to throw this out there. What do you think was the first animal humans ever domesticated? It was very much the dog. Dogs, wolves, they're pack animals. They're social animals. And while they did eat us, humans did get eaten by wolves a lot. If you manage to get one of those suckers when they're young, they pack bond with you, that's it. They're yours. That's all it takes. And it's possible to get one in the wild to trust you. It's not easy, but you can get them to come in. I'll talk about the cats in a minute, but wolves, it says here, let's see, the dog was the first domesticated animal. All dogs are descended from wolves. The DNA evidence suggested the canine descent began about 140,000 years ago. Dogs have been around a long time, and I mean as separate from wolves in terms of distinct enough to be DNA separate. I mean they're close enough that they can breed because they're still like Canis, but divergent. Anyway, the complete domestication did not occur until about 15,000 years ago in the Middle East, which again is still it's a long ass time ago. In central China, domesticated dogs interbred again with wolves. Dog remains from as early as 12,000 BCE have been discovered in graves in the Middle East. I think I saw one that has been an earlier dog grave discovered in somewhere in Eastern Europe, and the dog was buried with it was a puppy, and it had its bones had evidence of some kind of disease, but it had healed from that disease, and then it later had died, and it was the dog was the people took care of the dog enough that it survived what would have normally killed it. And again, this thing is beyond 15,000 years old. And then when it was buried with what were essentially dog toys from that era, which is amazing. Like, we didn't have written record back then. Humans were barely surviving, but we were caring about these little fluffy assholes enough that, like, we were burying them with the same level of care that we did people. That's so cool. I love it. We'll get to that.
The only reason I was thinking it could have been a cat is because of my audio Egyptians and like how they played
Still mind you, but they saw the animal, and it's like, they're like, what name? It meowed at them, like, okay.
Mao.
It's Mao.
Yeah. We'll get, we're almost there. We're almost there. The advantages of the relationship for people are clear. Dogs are teachable. They can hunt, protect, serve as guard dogs, provide companionship, and also be eaten. Yeah, you can eat a dog. And the advantages for the dog, protection from predators, and more secure food supply, because, I mean, dogs will eat anything a person will eat. Look at any fat dog that sits beside you at the kitchen table wondering when they're going to get a bit. Sheep were domesticated about 10,000 years ago, Asian goats, etc. Domestication led to temperament and physical changes. Sheep grew longer wool, goats developed shorter horns, yada, yada, yada. So there's a level of it's not natural selection, it's human selection. So this is like evolution by force, essentially. Now, some of it wasn't necessarily like selective breeding, but just like it worked better for domestication. A lot of it, though, was. That's why we have so many awful inbred breeds of dogs now, is like selective breeding. Yeah. I mean, if you see a picture of a pug from like 100 years ago, they don't look like they do today. They actually had snouts. They could breathe. Yeah, I heard about that. Like, they're trying to, like, revitalize.
I remember my dad's friends up from the gym to go household stuff sometimes, and they have a pug. That thing sounds like it's struggling to live.
It's so sad. Yeah.
Oh, the princess wants to meet the guest, and that dog's sitting there looking at you.
Yeah.
Like, he is like, he's struggling.
Let's see. Humans had to change their behavior with their contact and care for animals. Hunter-gatherers turned into settled peoples. Domestication of animals and plants was a step in the process of managing economic resources and regularizing a wandering life. So, domestication is a large part of what led to human civilization, because it changed us from just like chasing down animals to survive to like we have to care for these other things to help us survive. Anyway, it talks about pigs and cattle and horses, yada, yada, yada. Here's where we were talking about. The cat is a special case. Its economic use is less obvious. They were likely attracted to human communities by the rodents, which is, say, mice and rats, that lived off of human food and were tolerated as rodent catchers. Some evidence suggests that cats domesticated themselves, which may explain their half-wild or independent nature. Descended from Middle Eastern wildcats, early domesticated cats were much larger than today's house pets. If you've ever seen a savanna cat, that's what Egyptian cats were. They are about this high at the shoulder. Savanna cats are huge. They're also kind of dog-like in their personalities. They're very friendly. They also want to like jump on you. On Cyprus, a large domesticated cat was buried beside a grave around 9500 BCE. So this isn't quite as far back as dogs, but still, that's like, what, 12,000 years ago? Egyptians later bred smaller and tamer cats than the one found on Cyprus. So yeah, Egyptian cats were smaller. The earlier cats were the big ass savannah cats. So yeah. Also, one of the main reasons why the Egyptians were so cool with cats is because, well, Egypt had a ton of rice. Not rice, wheat, grain. And if you had an infestation of mice, you could all die because all your food could be gone. But you have these little fuzzy animals that come in and murder the mice for you and just sort of hang out. Yeah, all right. And unlike, the snakes that do the same, the cats aren't going to bite you and kill you. The cats might bite you, but they're not going to kill you. And also, a cat's cuter than a snake typically. I like snakes, but cats are still cuter. So yeah. Animal domestication's an interesting part of human history. And something that I would like to maybe go into more in depth, on maybe if I manage to make my own class one day. So, here's some of the old paintings in the caves from the Ice Age. So you've got these bulls. In the background, you've got deer and stuff. A lot of this was, and a horse too. A lot of this was typically stuff they were hunting, because again, this was domestication. Here's a fertility figure. If you've ever seen, I think it was the first Hellboy movie, there was a big fertility figure that he used to squish a bunch of little imps. Alright, we still got a little bit of time, so let's move on a bit more. Now, even though we just had this thing about the various ages not really meaning anything, we're still going to talk about a little bit of the different ages. So the Mesolithic age, which just means an early Stone Age. That's because lithic means stone. Or lith means stone. So post-Ice Age, the big animals have all buggered off, which is to say all died. So the stuff that people are surviving on are smaller, which means actually, now you think, oh, well, smaller stuff to kill and eat, then it's easier. Well, yes, but also you need to kill more to survive, which means more intensive hunting, which means you're out hunting more. So this is when the settling down starts to happen, because you can't survive on 1 kill a month like you could with a mammoth. Now, as people began settling down, as survival was less reliant on getting that 1 good kill a month, otherwise you all died, art began depicting people more prominently. Again, this earlier art, just real quick, there's no people. Or if there are, let's see if I can spot a human figure. Maybe here. They tended to paint over their old stuff, so sometimes the stuff in the back will be kind of washed out. This might be a human, a hunter figure chasing these deer. But typically, the main figures in the art were animals. However, as time began progressing and humans became, I would just say, more sure of their survival, they began appearing in their art more prominently. It became more human-centric, because hey, we're really making a thing of ourselves. We're really running things in the world. and then a bear comes and, eats your children. It's like, okay, well, let's just have more kids. So this is when we had megalithic structures, such as Stonehenge. There was also, what was it? I think I've got it up here. No, I don't. There's other hinges. Stonehenge is just like the most famous one. Salisbury Plain, that's where it's at. Wiltshire, England. I told you it was some stupid freaking name. England's the worst. Skara Brae is a prehistoric village in Scotland. The remains are a prehistoric village in northern Scotland in the Orkney Islands. There you go. Ring of Brodgar is the other hinge. And I've got 2 YouTube links here. One of them is for the Ring of Brodgar. The other one is, or I think the first one is for Skara Brae. The other one's Ring of Brodgar. The Ring of Brodgar one isn't as good. And since we have about 15 minutes left, and the Skara Brae one is like 6 minutes long, once I finish this slide, we'll watch the Skara Brae one and be done. But since I probably can't show it online, I'll just let you online folks follow the link once I post the PowerPoint on Blackboard. Which, by the way, I mean, you guys know this because, again, you guys have had my class before. But those of you that haven't, once we get near the end of this chapter, which we're only about halfway through now, I will post the PowerPoint up on Blackboard. So if you missed anything, you'll have access to it on Blackboard. So that's where that'll be. All right. Stonehenge is the same picture I had earlier. So, there's Stonehenge. I don't have anything for Ring of Brodgar. Okay, well that's fine because the next one is Mesopotamia, and that's a whole other thing. So let me pull up the Orkney, or sorry, not Orkney, Skara Brae real quick. Hopefully we can understand it because, needless to say, the narrator is very Scottish. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the stream. I will see you guys on Wednesday.